So, gentlemen, and of course, I'm going to go right back to Jamie Moran. The big question here, and I think it was asked, is why do you buy Xbox hardware for next gen? Well, I really do think that, and look, I've had people try to come after me and pan me for this statement, and that's why I continue to say it, because I believe it in my heart of hearts. Everyone keeps thinking that because the PlayStation 5 is the more popular brand, and it's number 7 in the world, or most recognizable brand, and that's not an accident, folks. Sony has earned that. Now, in the last couple of years, not so much, but they are certainly working with a lot of political capital for their past, games and, blocks of years. I automatically go right back to 2018, 2019, and 2020. An amazing 3 years for Sony first party. There's no arguing that. And what made that even better was some of the third party exclusive deals that they had in there, which made both sides even more greater. Their first party looked better. The third party games exclusively that were on PlayStation looked better. It was a win for everybody. But why Xbox hardware? Well, here's the problem. And here's my thought and theory. Even though we don't have confirmation yet, gentlemen in chat, that the next Xbox is going to be different, right? Phil Spencer has said, when he was asked specifically to Paris Lilly, when Paris asked him, why should I buy an Xbox? He said that we need to make a machine that is going to take advantage and be something that has not been done before. And I'm paraphrasing, folks. And that's something that has not been done before, is incorporating the ideology of PC gaming on your home console. The PlayStation 6, make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, and I've said this before, and I'm going to die on this hill, is going to be a powerful piece of hardware. Sony is not going to drop the ball with this at all. I believe that it's going to be the most powerful PlayStation they've ever put out. But here is the difference between what Xbox is doing and what Sony is doing. The PlayStation 6 is going to be a more powerful PlayStation 5. It is not going to be PC-based. It is not going to allow for you to play your PC games on this box. It's just not. Xbox. That's why this is an Xbox or Xbox Play Anywhere exists, which is why they're making a handheld to launch right alongside this mythical, magical box. So again, that's the difference. So my question to you is, why Xbox for next gen? Jamie Moran.
I mean, where can I start?
Please, listen, take all the time you want. This is a conversational podcast.
I mean, let's look at all the people that stuck on last generation. That's tens of millions on both platforms. Well, I'll just make up a number: 80 million across, Xbox and PlayStation. Right? This generation, to a lot of people, it feels kind of weird because some people see it as an extension of last generation. Games currently, they look fantastic, they perform great, but fundamentally, we haven't had a huge technical jump in a very long time. Graphically, jumping from the original Xbox to 360, that was a huge jump. Jumping from the N64 to GameCube, massive jump. Super Nintendo to N64, possibly the biggest jump we'll ever have. We haven't really had that in a while. And I think a lot of people are still waiting for that reason to jump, because look, I don't personally think, and maybe it's just me, but I personally don't think that people will buy a console just for one game, right? What's the point, right? To me, you need a huge lineup of games to be able to buy into a console. So I think a lot of people are in that same boat. You also have millions of people, and this is the one thing that, by the way, I've noticed you've got quite a lot of PlayStation fanboys in chat today. The insecurity running wild. Anyway, you have tens of millions of people on Xbox and PlayStation that this might surprise people. They buy into these consoles and bought into them to play Fortnite, to play FIFA, Madden, Call of Duty, your occasional Assassin's Creed title. So, for them, it really doesn't matter what they buy. And plus, in the modern age where almost everything now has crossplay, you're not really incentivized. Those gamers specifically aren't really incentivized to buy one platform over the other. They are basically baked in fan bases at this point. So like if you're a Xbox fan and you have an Xbox One X and you haven't moved up yet and you play Fortnite, FIFA, Assassin's Creed or whatever, you don't really have much of an incentive to buy a PlayStation at all. Why would you move over? And you also have the other gamer where they've built up a catalog of games on Xbox over 20 years, physical and digital. Why would you all of a sudden give that up? Let's take me, for instance. Let's say I did this thing you see on Twitter where people lose their marbles, they switch platform overnight, they put a Spider-Man profile picture in the Twitter feed, and then they all of a sudden talk about PlayStation all the time. Let's say I did that, right? So I'm going to say goodbye to my 700 plus Xbox games.
There you go.
To my couple of hundred physical games. I'm just going to throw them all away, say, hey, that's tens of thousands of pounds I'm going to throw away. I'm going to start afresh. I'm going to buy a PlayStation 6. I'm going to buy everything brand new, all these brand new games at $80. I'm going to have to mortgage my house just to afford it all again. Right? Nobody's really doing that, right? It's like, why do people announce things on Twitter? It's not an airport, right? People feel the need to announce all this crap on Twitter, to get attention. Truth is, nobody cares, right? I'm an Xbox guy. I prefer Xbox. I cover Xbox. I think there's a lot of reasons to buy into Xbox. I always talk about backwards compatibility. The fact that you could play Grand Theft Auto 4 on your Xbox Series.
Great points.
You could play you could play GTA 4 on your Xbox Series X and S at 60 frames per second with quick resume. You can play Fallout 3 at 4K 60 with HDR. Right? You can play a Mirror's Edge at 4K 60. It looks like a bloody new game, right? Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. You can't play them on other consoles at the minute. You can on Xbox at 4K 60 a lot of the time. So like the backwards compatibility is just one thing. You have your built-in library, which have free upgrades. You have your free cloud saves to continue playing those games over. So like I think there's a lot of reasons to buy an Xbox. I see people in chat saying, "Oh, there's no reason to buy an Xbox because of games." But I mean, let's look at PlayStation, right? PlayStation, the same thing. People are going to, they have their built-in libraries. They're going to move over to PlayStation 6. All cool. And what exactly is coming out to PlayStation that's enticing me over, right? There's that intergalactic game. I like sci-fi, but I don't really know anything about it. We've seen, 3 seconds of gameplay in a vertical slice. Okay, I'm interested in seeing more of that. But what else is coming from PlayStation? Wolverine? Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of footage of that. I don't like the look of the gameplay. But, that was early footage. There's nothing coming from PlayStation that's enticing me over. So why would I move over to PlayStation just because, Xbox games are going there? Because of Final Fantasy games? Well, Square Enix has said Final Fantasy games are coming. They're taking the bloody time, like I said. But like, there's nothing to incentivize me to fully move over. And by the way, I do in fact plan on buying a PlayStation 5 or 6 or whatever the hell it will be at that point, at some point, just to play the occasional game. But to move over, I think is a weird concept for a lot of people. I understand if someone actually wants to move to PC because you have, all the fancy upgrades and, you have basically backwards compatibility going to Zork, But to change, when someone says they're changing platforms, it doesn't make any sense to me. You're saying goodbye to your hundreds, if not thousands of games, all your purchases, your built-in ecosystem stuff, the community, your achievements, your trophies. That has never made any sense to me. It's never made sense to me. And let's say you're like me and you invested in Microsoft Bing Rewards, right? Do you know how many times I've saved money because of Microsoft Rewards? I bought my Starfield controller, and all I had to do was save points for 3 months.
There you go.
I got £100 off my launch Xbox Series X. I've bought multiple AAA games, multiple indie games, multiple Game Pass subscriptions, right? So, like, if you invested in the ecosystem like that, you have no reason to look anywhere. Yes, it's weird seeing PlayStation logo on a Gears of War trailer. It just is, because it's like an alien concept at this point. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, right, I've never understood the whole I'm switching platforms because of the games going elsewhere thing. the truth is, Xbox has been a multi-platform box for a long time. People have been saying it since they start putting games on PC. Do you know when people stop saying that? When PlayStation start putting games on PC. People moved the goalpost because it suited them. Right? That's the truth. And why should people buy a new Xbox or whenever the next Xbox comes out or what it's called? And if Microsoft's listening, just call it Xbox 6. Stop the weird naming conventions. Right? Rip off the band-aid, and then you can call the portable one the Xbox 6 Go. Anyway, like there's going to be a lot of reasons to buy into the next Xbox, and even if it's not like the whole Steam integration thing, which people keep talking about, right? Maybe if you don't like PC games, it won't affect them that way. But if you've built in hundreds of games over 20 years, you don't really have much incentive to be moved to move somewhere else. Because yes, would it be nice to play your PlayStation games and your Xbox games on the same console? But if you're not buying games on a PlayStation at the minute and you don't have a built-in library there, what's the point? It's all for clicks. People like to do this for attention. And look, I'm sure people on PlayStation that have called Xbox games mid for years, they're super excited now all of a sudden, right? But it's just another topic where people are wanting the end of Xbox. And I see it in chat. You have an Xbox-centric podcast and you have people hate listening. Why? Why are they here? It's stupid. But anyway, there's plenty of reasons to buy an Xbox, and the built-in library, ecosystem, and backwards compatibility are huge ones.
I agree. Again, there are so many reasons for me personally. Now, maybe if your reasoning is different, no one here on this panel is going to fight with you. Trying to sell me on a brand that's called PlayStation, well, folks, you don't have to go far. I own a PlayStation 5. Now, did I buy the PS5 Pro? No, I'm not spending that kind of money on something I barely use as it is. I use my Switch way more on a regular basis than I do on my PS5. The PS5 is a first-party machine. That's all it is for. If something happens to go into the service that I pay for yearly, which I don't even know why I do, but I do, I pay for it, then I'll play it. But for the most part, it's a first-party machine. And quite frankly, there has been no real first-party games that I want to play outside of last year's Astrobot, which was freaking phenomenal. But Umbra, I want to bring you in because I really am so interested to get your thoughts and your theories because you are a PC guy, right? You have a great or powerful rig that you yourself put together. And what's interesting is you're probably going to get the next generation Xbox. The big question is, why would gamers still want to buy Xbox hardware? I think Jamie knocked it out of the park, but I'm still very interested to get your thoughts and theories because, again, it's not just Game Pass. It's not just Quick Resume. It's so much more. And if this hardware is like we have already been sold how powerful this hardware is going to be thanks to Sarabon. We have already had an idea that the next generation of hardware is going to incorporate PC-like gaming with PC-like power, but console convenience. And I think there are people in this chat right now, like me, who don't want to move to PC, but will happily move to an Xbox that is as powerful as one. And again, mind you, there is a subtext to this. There could be third-party hardware makers like Lenovo, like Razer, like Alienware that will be able to make an Xbox based on the specs that you want and how much money you have in your bank account. And that is something that is going to be a reason why people like me who don't want the game on PC, but will gladly buy a $1,500 Xbox because I can afford to do it. And it's going to have every bell and whistle that I'm going to have. And you know something? Ultimately, it is going to be more powerful than a PlayStation 6 because I'm going to be the one designing it. Get your thoughts, man.
Well, I mean, outside of a lot of the features that we're talking about returning from like Quick Resume and things like that, which I'm sure is going to be there next gen. You also have, again, I think the fact that it's going to be a fusion type situation where,
yes,
that's the thing that
the melding of two worlds coming together.
That I think is the most. If I'm strictly on a console, and if I'm saying this as if I didn't own a PC. Now I have the prospect of essentially having a PC and a console where I'll be able to play not only just Xbox bound games, but I'll also have access to Steam or Epic Games, whatever storefront and things of that nature. Because these are all the things we're hearing. I see no reason not to own an Xbox going forward, especially considering again the ties to the games that I actually prefer. So, but if I'm talking just specifically consoles, right, what reasons to own it? Yeah, the fact that I'll be able to get everything that comes out essentially, so long as if the access to Steam is available as well as Xbox games itself. Yeah, that's a W right there. I don't know if PlayStation is going to have that. I'll talk to a few people that said they suggested they won't have it, and I mean, to me, it's a major reason to own an Xbox aside from the games that they offer. So yeah, for me, I think it's the big pull of having a fusion option and being able to play all types of games through it. And it probably, just to throw it out there, might not necessarily be looked at or smiled upon, but it might be a case for heavy emulation as well that can be done with the next gen console. I mean, you can do it right now. So there is that option as well. I don't want to throw it out there and get caught by Nintendo, but you know what I mean. They get kind of
I mean, listen, those ninjas are always hiding around corners because they go after people. And look, what they're doing currently with Pocket Pair is gross, and they do it because they can. And I do hope that at some point, Pocket Pair does win, because Pal World, again, not for me per se. I know that you played it, you enjoyed it. A lot of people enjoyed it. The fact you can't have flying creatures, I mean, come on. Do they own the trademark on flying creatures? I mean, come on. So it's a little ridiculous. So yeah, we watch out for those ninjas. But I mean, again, I do like the thought and theory of this melding of two different worlds. And PC, look, I understand that it's more accessible now than it's ever been. And I don't necessarily know if it's accessible financially for a lot of people, because you can get a decent PC for $700. I'm well aware of that. But I think that if you're going to go, you're probably going to go all the way. And you're going to want at least a 4070, a 4080, maybe even a 4090 if you're going. I don't care about that stuff. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. But if you give me the ability to have this next generation console, and I've said this before, Umbra, and please, reiterate what I'm about to say. See, like right now, I'm not a Steam customer, right? I'm not an Epic Games Store customer. What I do with Epic Games is every time they give stuff away, I go to my Epic Games Store account and I claim them. So if I ever get the PC or having a device that I can use with the Epic Games Store app, I'll play those games, and maybe not even. But here is the trick, and this is why I think it's going to work for Xbox. I'm a side-scrolling beat-em-up kind of an old-school gamer. And if there's one thing that we know about PC gaming, specifically on Steam, is that there are a lot of single and double and even studios of 10 people that make these old-school games that will never find their way to console. So right now, I'm not spending money on Steam, and I have no reason to, because I have a computer or a PC that does everything I needed to do for the show, right? I can edit, I can make my thumbnails, I can do artwork, I can do the podcast. Everything is great. And I'm never going to be a PC guy, but if this new Xbox allows me to have games and even purchase games on this box via Steam and download them to the Xbox and play them, I now become a Steam customer. And that's why it's a win-win for both Xbox and Microsoft and Steam. Any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you just summed up really my thinking on it. Honestly, it's just, to me, I look at it as an absolute win, just because you get everything you're talking about, and possibly more, considering again emulation. I just don't see. I can't see. I'm trying to find like what I could figure out as a negative, and the only thing I can think of would possibly be pricing outside of, but that might be predicated a bit on the current climate. But other than that, man, I don't know. I just don't see the reason not to have it. You know what I mean? And I feel like, to me, and the way I look at it, and maybe I'm wrong for looking at it this way, I don't know, to some people's eyes, but if I'm just talking about, if I did not have a PC, I would see having the next gen Xbox, considering it having all those things, as a necessity. I would think it would, if I'm somebody that enjoys the hobby of gaming like this. I feel like if everything we've been speculating on is actually there, that the whole implementation of Steam and Steam and Epic and all these different storefronts and whatever, if all of that is freely an option, along with all the gaming goodness that I can imagine from Xbox first party, I just don't see how you couldn't have an Xbox next gen. For me, I think it would have to be necessary, And I know some people will argue, well, I can just get the PlayStation. I don't know. I don't know if PlayStation is going to be offering those same things. But for me, I would have what I would want right here and there. I think I think the argument for this value proposition, and the only one, is made already to me.
And it's a fair point. Again, obviously when you stepped away, my thing that I keep resting my hat on is I expect the PlayStation 6 to be very powerful, taking nothing away from Sony, Mark Cerny, and what they're going to do with their next console. It is going to be a very powerful console. Here's the problem, though. It is going to be a more powerful PS5. That is what it ultimately is going to be. It's going to be what you have now with a ton more power. They're not doing what Xbox is doing. As the kids like to say, Xbox and PlayStation, they're just not the same. Sorry. And if Xbox pulls off what we just discussed, then it's going to be a place where a lot more people like me exist in this ecosystem. They're gonna be like, I don't want PC, but I'll take that. And that is where the crux of the conversation goes back.